Hello everyone and welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Josh, joined as ever by Ewan Patterson for, you guessed it, some Star Wars news. How would you have guessed it, Ewan? It's probably in the title or in the thumbnail, I don't know, because today there has been an explosion about what Disney is kind of doing with the Star Wars universe. We have already done a news video that you can find over on the main channel discussing their plans for the movies, but that actually ties in very neatly to what EA is doing with their Star Wars license, because Disney is essentially going to kick off what's called Project Luminous and the era of the High Republic. And that's starting, weirdly enough, with a video game set to drop in 2021. We already knew that EA was working on a new unannounced Star Wars video game that we all kind of assumed was Battlefront 3, but that doesn't seem like the case anymore. This is going to be their first step forward for the High Republic era, which we haven't seen anything about so far. It's a brand new thing that they get to put their own stamp on eventually. It's 400 years before the Skywalker saga, so we essentially have no idea what that is, but I'm going to try to, through a process of elimination, Ewan, break down which studios could be working on it, in what form it's actually going to take. But what are your first initial thoughts on this?
It's very interesting. I think the idea of, like, I think we mentioned it in the other news video as well. We're basically doing the NC strategy here. You've got to go look at the WhatCulture main news video to understand what I'm saying here, but like the whole idea of like Star Wars teasing the origins of the foundations of the unknown regions and the actual franchise itself has been going on for a little while. Even last year's Jedi Fallen Order had a big thing about the Zepho and ancient Force cultures and what's going on with there. So this all feels as though there have been subtle teasers going on in the background, as well as stuff with, like, the Mandalorian, which goes on about the Mandalorian people's origins and, the whole Darksaber stuff. So there's definitely been teasers there. I'm curious to see how that maybe ties in.
Yeah, I mean, me too, because like you said, there have been kind of, stepping stones here and there, but this game is going to kick it off. And the fact that EA is kind of now at the forefront of the next stage of the Star Wars universe.
Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it? That's kind of scary and worrying, but in my opinion, Jedi Fallen Order was a great kind of step forward for their license and proved that they can make great games and tell great stories in this universe. Like Cal Kestis and his team of rogues running around the galaxy trying to find the little Jedi thing that I can't remember.
The holocron.
The holocron, that's it. I knew it was a MacGuffin of some sort.
It's not a Wayfinder.
It's not a Wayfinder. It was fascinating, and it got me interested in a kind of liminal space in the Star Wars universe in a way that I hadn't before. But for this to go 400 years in the past and to kick it off, it is scary and worrying, purely because I'm not really sure who's going to work on it. We know that DICE is busy working on a new Battlefield game in time for about 2021 or 2022, and this is going to drop around the same time. We know that BioWare is busy making Dragon Age 4, and my sort of initial thought is that it could be perhaps LA Vancouver, who, if you don't remember, were initially working alongside, no, they were working on the project that was formerly Visceral Games' Ragtag.
I think it was.
When that game was cancelled, it was given to DICE. No, EA LA. There's so many studios. DICE LA is someone else we need to get to. It was given to EA LA to kind of retool it to be an open world live service game. And that's the worrying thing, Ewan. If the next era of Star Wars is kicked off by a live service Star Wars game,
I know where you're going with this.
I might lose my mind a little bit.
Yes.
Or that is not, it's like the harbinger of doom.
It's frustrating because you could definitely see why they'd want to do that. If you've got a new era of Star Wars that you're introducing and you've already got very story-driven, narrative-driven content coming in terms of the films, and I'm assuming Disney Plus shows in the future as well, a video game live service that could really flesh out the universe. If you had your character inserted in here and he's your own creation, that'll be the whole thing. You're growing more, engendering attachment to this new era of Star Wars. So I definitely see the logic behind it. Not that I would want it, but I definitely understand what you mean there. And I do have to speculate as well now, because obviously EA Vancouver, there was the Visceral Games Star Wars Uncharted-esque thing with Amy Hennig. There was the EA Vancouver open world game as well. I am curious to see, maybe, they cancelled Vancouver's sort of out of the blue.
Yeah.
I do have to wonder if maybe that's because they were aware of what Project Luminous was going with the High Republic thing. In this game, we know for a fact that Vancouver was set during the original trilogy, so I do have to wonder, in that sense, maybe they cancelled it because they realised that they have to retool it to match, Disney's multifaceted, multimedia approach to Star Wars going forward.
That's what I'm thinking as well. When it was announced that when they were taking on Visceral's game and they were sort of retooling it, like we said, it seemed like they were at least confident that they could push that out. So the only reason for that to get cancelled outright, for me, would be exactly what you're saying, that Disney sort of said, look, we've got this new plan for Star Wars going forward. We need a Star Wars game to tie it in and even kick it off. Can we have your team, please? And can they work on this and not something set during the original trilogy? Which does make sense and is exciting because we mentioned it in the main video. I think that this is a good era to explore because we don't really know much of anything about it, which means that anything really can happen in it. There's not going to be all that kind of baggage or fitting in between spaces. As much as I love Fallen Order, like setting games between, different trilogies, I feel like there's only so much material you can mine for that, no matter how good it is. Sometimes it it feels tenuous or perhaps not as
There's inevitability to it, isn't there?
There is an inevitability to it. It can't feel as consequential or as substantive as it should because it's either setting things up or adhering to prior canon, whereas this feels like as long as it's within the aesthetic framework of whatever Disney decide to, go forward with the High Republic.
The perfect example of this is Knights of the Old Republic. There wasn't an Old Republic. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm like a 7 on the Star Wars dorker meter. There might be even dorkier people than I who have an actual correct answer for this. But I do think the Knights of the Old Republic was the first time we saw that era in Star Wars. There were comics afterwards. A really good one by Dark Horse that featured the same character, which is like a fugitive Jedi thing. It's really good. Going off topic, but the whole idea of the Knights of the Old Republic was that it was a new thing for BioWare to do their own thing with and leave their own imprint on Star Wars, and ended up giving us one of the most fascinating, well-rounded kind of interpretations of that mythos just by kind of doing their own thing. And they had really interesting characters like Revan and Bastila Shan, and there's so much going on there that, I feel as though if we are going to get this new era, I'd love to see something along similar lines. EA, and we know that BioWare are doing the Dragon Age game. I think EA are shooting themselves in the foot if they're not letting BioWare have this license again.
I know, I mean, it sucks because historically BioWare have had 2 teams, and one team is going to be working on Dragon Age, like we know, so it's not ruled out that they'd also be working on a Star Wars game. It just feels, the time frame feels too limited. They've just shipped Anthem and all the focus has been on the next Dragon Age. And I do feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot. Like, all they have to do, before this, all they had to do was announce Knights of the Old Republic 3 and everyone would lose their goddamn minds. And even not having that, if you have BioWare on this Star Wars game, that would be a win as well. I kind of secretly hope that Respawn are working on this in a way, even though it seems so tight considering that they just shipped Fallen Order. I feel like the foundation they set and the kind of storytelling abilities that shone through in that game would make perfect sense to kickstart this new era. And if I had to put my trust in one of EA's teams, it would be them.
I think that's interesting because, like we said with Fallen Order, the whole stuff with the story is all about ancient Force cultures like the Zepho. And, even though one of the things we've been agonizing over as fans of that game over the the last few months, we think there's definitely a Fallen Order sequel in the works, is the inevitability of the journey of Cal Kestis and Sage and Grease, the Salt Man. These characters, there is a kind of inevitability, at least to the Jedi ones, in the fact that they have to die or disappear before Luke Skywalker breaks onto the scene in A New Hope. And like you said earlier on, the restrictions of the old canon can really restrict that. So I'm curious to see, if maybe Respawn want to flesh out their idea of the Zepho and these ancient Force cultures, maybe they have a Fallen Order game that is part present set during the original trilogy where Cal Kestis is further exploring those kind of things, but then they also have another part of the game which is set all the way in the High Republic era where you're playing basically 2 characters. Maybe there's like a Force dyad thing going on and they're both linked through generations, I don't know, something like that.
I think this is a great way to do it because I was wondering how they're going to get a video game to kick off this new film franchise essentially, because they need to have everything, established. And if everyone's first taste of that is in a game, which, I'm not saying games are lesser than movies, but I feel like Disney as a company would feel that was a bit of a risk because they don't have full control over it. I do think it might be more of a stepping stone like that, when you have kind of flashbacks or you have 2 stories going on at the same time where you're finding out about this world, but it's not totally defining it. I think that would make sense if you do have a Fallen Order sequel that, it goes across these 2 different timelines, or at least harkens back, or at least you're learning about this new era, but not in a way that's like has to define all the rules or
it further ingratiates it to the new canon as well. I think even though we love the Knights of the Old Republic, it did feel kind of like its own thing off in the corner, whereas the rest of the Star Wars mythos was all the way over here. And that's fine. Knights of the Republic was great because it was unique, but you would like to see more integration between all the different eras, I think.
What's in Ewan, right? So Disney are making, they're essentially MCU-ifying the Star Wars license through this era now. They're going to, we already know that through rumors that they're going to release new movies and they're going to build up to an event movie. Will we see then because it's such a multimedia project that's including books and games and everything, will we see finally, characters from games make the jump to movies rather than just the other way around?
I think we're getting there. I genuinely think we're getting. I mean, Ben Roy, who's been banging that drum for months, that the reason why they cast Cameron Monaghan in Jedi Fallen Order is because there was potential for a Disney Plus series further down the line, and there are rumors at the moment as well that certain characters introduced in the Marvel comics are going to make their way into Star Wars as well. I think Dr. Aphra is heavily rumored to have her own Disney Plus series coming in the future. So I think we're definitely getting there, and that's exciting and kind of nerve-wracking in an equal measure. But again, that's kind of, maybe that goes to show it's a really good idea. So I'm curious to see how it all comes into effect. The whole Project Luminous stuff sounds really interesting. The idea of bridging across books, comics, games, and films all into one is kind of really weird. But again, emblematic of Disney's new approach. They want you to basically suck their fangs into every single kind of Star Wars media or Marvel media that you can get your hands on, to make sure you get every little last drop of that story.
And I think I'm ready for it. I think if it's a new era,
I'm ready to be used.
Do it well. yeah. Just inject it straight into my veins, please. But from the sounds of things, EA at the very least is going to have this license for a good few years. I don't think Disney would let them kick off the High Republic and then just kind of say, we don't want you making these games anymore. So I feel like this at the very least indicates that EA are continuing to commit to this franchise, which for better or worse is going to lead to more Star Wars games
of 2021
varying quality, and the first one will arrive in 2021. But I don't know what you guys think. Down in the comments below. I just mangled all of those words. I understood I want everything. To know what you guys think about this Star Wars game down in the comments below. Are you looking forward to it? Do you even want EA to make these games anymore? And are you looking forward to the High Republic era? Either way, while you're down there, can you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't, though, I've been Josh. You can find me on Twitter at JoshBroom with 2 O's. This has been Ewan. You can find him on Twitter at
Ewan Ruins Things.
And we will see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Punch it, Chewie.